We're here today with Shawn Griffith. Is it Griffith or Griff? How to pronounce the last name?
It's Griffith, just like Andy or Melanie,
Griffith.
but no relation.
Gotcha. Man, thanks so much for being here at the fire table. This is where the thing he's up.
Oh yeah, I'll tell you, it's definitely appropriate for the weather we're having here in Texas.
Absolutely, and then the car actually shows a little bit more degrees than actually it is, but you can tell like 115 in the car when you just drive it.
Oh,
Thank
yeah.
God for the remote start, huh?
Yeah, I took a picture of mine the other day and sent it to one of my friends, and he goes, "Oh my."
Yeah, dude. But I tell you what, I would rather take this than the winter, than the really cold weather.
You know, I
It's just
like
me.
both. I mean, as you can see by my hat, we like cold places. We went to Antarctica for our vacation.
Oh, nice.
And, we were down there for almost all of February. It was, we went to Chile. We flew into Santiago and went up to San Pedro de Atacama for the Atacama Desert and the Salt Flats. And then we flew down to Ushuaia, got on the ship, spent a couple of weeks tooling around Antarctica and seeing cool stuff like penguins and, whales.
Was that in a
lions.
cruise or?
Yeah, they
one of
it was
those?
with Viking, but they called it an expedition.
Oh,
So, and the difference between an expedition and a cruise is a cruise, you got a pretty fixed itinerary. You're going to
Yeah.
be in a port unless there's some extenuating circumstances. They always go to that port and they always have things planned out. Well, the expedition, it's more like every night when you get into your target area, in our case around Antarctica, they would the cruise director and the captain would get together and plan out where they're going to go the next day based on what there is to see in an area and the weather and other like any potential traffic in the area, all that kind of stuff. So
Right.
yeah, it was really cool.
cool, man. That's awesome. I would love to. I haven't done to Antarctica. Another place I want to go is Argentina. I know that
Mhm.
that whole South. I haven't been there, even though I'm from South America.
Well, that I have a theory on that. Is that you've got a lot of people here in the U.S. that haven't traveled a great deal in the
That's
U.S.
a big true, man. A big
and
true.
and even beyond that, it's like local stuff. When I first moved to Dallas, there was all kinds of touristy stuff I wanted to go see, but I got busy with work and everything else, and you just never get there. So when one of my friends comes in from out of town, I finally make it down to go visit the book depository and the JFK Memorial down there and all the other stuff that that everybody does, the West End and all the touristy
Right.
stuff.
And the U.S. also has awesome places to see and do, man.
Oh yeah.
Like, that's what I say. Like, my kids are small, so it's hard to travel international with them, and it's not impossible. And my wife totally that she wants to do international, but it's like, why they're small, and
Mhm.
especially like with the RV, it's easier to get situated here. But there's a lot of things to see, like Niagara, like upstate New York, beautiful. We did all the way for the Key Wests, all those islands there, which
Mhm.
was awesome. And now we want to be on California, Seattle, which I haven't been.
Yeah.
I've been California, not
Like the
Seattle.
Pacific Coast Highway.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
Awesome, man. So
Yeah.
super excited. But dude, I want to get into some of the meat here. And
Yeah,
first of all, dude, I want to ask you a question. One thing I admire about you, Shawn, that you always show up. You always show up
Well, thank
to
you.
any event, any meetup, no matter, you don't even look at the quantity, you just show up. You always, doing that impact of every single event I go, you're going to be there. Why do you do that? Why is your drive for that? Which I admire, by the way. I think it's
Well,
great.
thank you. Yeah. So really, I think it comes down to something that I've really gotten ingrained in my system, which is something I read in Dan Sullivan's book, Who, Not
Love it.
How. And it is really, if you're asking, well, how can I do this? You're asking the wrong question. You need to be asking, who can help me do this, or who can do this for me, or, who can help me do this better? And, so that's part of why I network. And the other part of it is I love making connections. And, it's kind of funny. My wife and I were talking about this when we were first getting started. She goes, I know you love doing this networking thing. You're really good at it. And I can tell you enjoy it, but I don't see how it's going to make us any money. And I said, you have to give it time. because it takes time to develop all of those connections and the relationships. Exactly. And you never know who you're going to meet at an event. Excuse me. That person, may not be able to help you directly, but they might be able to connect you with somebody that can. Or I might be able to connect them with somebody that they need to know. And, and I don't expect anything from those connections other than maybe a little goodwill. And, hey, think of me if you run into somebody that's, looking to invest in multifamily.
Which is great, by the way. I admire that even more. You say that because it's also not just about receiving, but giving value, which, how can I serve and help others too? You might be a connection for them. You might be the who's. I read this book, by the way, not too long ago. I just finished probably about a couple months ago. The Who Not How. Amazing, man. Big fan. But it's also, finding your who's, but you might be somebody else's who's, right?
Yeah. And I look at it as, kind of like I do with, and I'm going to use the term, and I hate this term, my investors. Let me just say it, people that have invested with me. Okay. Because they're not my investors. I don't own them. I just feel privileged that I have a deal that they liked well enough and then they like me well enough to invest with me. I had one of my investors last year that said, hey, I find myself with a couple of $100,000 that I need to place by the end of the year. Do you have another deal coming up? And he'd already invested in the deal that we were just working on that closed December 23rd. I said, well, no, we haven't even got this one closed yet. And I said, but would you be okay if I introduce you to somebody that my wife and I invest with passively? And he goes, you'd do that? And I go, yeah, I'd do that. I said, to me, I look at it as it's selfish of me if you have money and I don't have a deal.
You need to deploy.
But I know somebody that does have a deal that I trust. I'll connect. I'm happy to make that connection. And then, I always tell them, I said, just because I like the guy and invest with him doesn't mean, you should do your own due diligence, but, take it for what it's worth. And, he was ecstatic. And I know he placed money with the guy. And he also sent me, I think, 3 or 4 other investors, 2 of which have already invested with me.
That's amazing, dude. So if you had to pick, and this is kind of a subject that we talk a lot about throughout syndicators, is like, if you think an investor will pick the numbers of the deal or the deal itself or you?
It really comes down to the investor. So one of the things I found, and this is kind of helping me learn to change my language a little bit, is about 30% of the people out there are like me. They're numbers people. They really, it's like, just show me the deal, show me, the return, and get out of my way. Now, the other 70% of the people, they are more social, more emotional. They want to have that connection. They want to understand you as an individual. And even more so, they want to make sure that you understand them and why they're investing. So you've got to spend that time getting to know the investors. And that's why I say it really depends on the investors. But
don't you think that, the 30% analytical folks that you just mentioned, I think the syndicator or who's leading that, it's first backed up or defended by the numbers. I didn't think that analytical person is going to invest because the deal looks great, but who's that running it?
Well,
so that's a mix right there.
Exactly. And they have to trust that person enough to trust their numbers.
Right. So but that's what I was saying. Like,
yeah. So
who comes first?
So yeah, if you put it that way, it really is about the individual and the relationship you have with them.
100%. And then that's what I'm realizing more and more, because when I did my first deal, and my background, me from a marketing background, I was like, this deal is great. It's all about the deal, man. Like, all of our language, all of our product, everything we put out is about the deal, very little about us. And that didn't give much traction until we switched the language to, like, this is what I am going to do. This is who we are. This is my principles, and that just switched. I got a lot more tractions because, again, the numbers, the relationship first with the person, the trust, whatever you call it, that person who's running the deal, it comes first. The numbers is defending that or supporting that, right? Because if you also a great person, but your numbers, you're very aggressive when you're underwriting, or you don't know what you're doing, that even a person loves you, your brother would not invest with you.
Oh yeah. No, I get it totally. I mean, we've got, several properties, and while, current performance is no guarantee of future performance, right?
Right.
4 out of the 5 deals that we're involved in are cash flowing and are doing distributions.
That's awesome, man. Congratulations.
Well, thank you. And a lot of that I attribute to the fact that we try to be not just conservative, but very conservative. And we build in, a good reserve. I like to refer to that as my oh crap fund. So, when the property manager calls you and you go, oh crap, you reach into your oh crap fund and you throw some money at it and you fix it.
And what was your experience prior to real estate?
I can give you the short version of a very long story. So when I was in high school, I enlisted in the delayed entry program with a guaranteed seat at electronics and nuclear power school, and then also applied for an ROTC scholarship. I know you'll be utterly shocked to know that the government screwed up the paperwork on my scholarship. And by the time they got it straightened out, I was already through electronics school, getting ready to head back to Orlando for nuclear power school. Anyway, they got that straightened out, took my scholarship. I was commissioned, was stationed in San Diego for about 6 months for training. And then they sent me out to Pearl Harbor. Terrible duty. Somebody had to do it.
Wow.
And I was on board an old guided missile destroyer, which destroyers are nicknamed tin cans because they kind of bob like an empty tin can in the water. I mean, you get out at sea and they're just going back and forth and up and down all over the place. And not someplace you want to be if you have motion sickness. Fortunately, I've never had that problem. But did that, got to tour the world a fair amount, and then ended up down in Dallas working for Texas Instruments. Did that until they sold their defense group to Raytheon. Raytheon packed up and moved out of town about a year and a half after that. And then I did what I refer to as some creative unemployment. I basically did some access database babysitting. So I was transitioning into like software and IT kind of stuff. Ended up at Southwest Airlines working on their back office finance system. Then I moved into their working on the reservation system, and then into production support, where I was responsible for training and evaluating our offshore team and helping manage that. And then retired from Southwest in 2014, went back east to help take care of my dad for a couple of years and had some contract jobs there. And then when dad passed away, my contract jobs dried up. Ended up coming back to Dallas, doing a bunch of contract jobs around town. Coincidentally enough, several of those were with Southwest Airlines. And then finally, a couple of years ago, I had to tell the contracting company, hey guys, I can't work anymore. My CPA says I need to be a real estate professional this year. And that's kind of it. I've done soft programming and business and data analysis. That was probably the last 15 years or so.
I mean, how did the real estate started? What was your beginning of your journey of the real estate? Because, numbers and real estate goes well in this business.
Oh, yeah.
And you had that background, so what was the trigger there for the real estate and to the multifamily more specific?
So I was reading a book that was talking about multiple streams of income. And I realized that no matter how well paid you are, if that's the only stream of income you have, you're really sitting on kind of a precarious position, at least, financially. And I got interested in real estate. I actually started with the Lifestyles group, and I didn't like the way how they did things, so I didn't stay with them, but I did meet a couple of good people, and I got invested in a deal with one of them. He's still a good friend to this day. Although he's pivoted, he's not doing multifamily anymore. He's doing oil and gas syndications. But we still got a big deal we're invested with him in. It's like 460 something units out in Abilene.
Mm-hmm.
But that's how we got started in it. And then, we've been passively investing for, a dozen or so years. And then November of 2020, we were sitting around the kitchen table, my wife and I, talking about finances and what retirement was going to look like. And we came to the realization that the bill of goods that Wall Street and corporate America had sold us wasn't quite all it was cracked up to be. And, don't get me wrong, we had money in a 401k and, we'd had an okay retirement, but we'd have to cut back on our standard of living and what we give to church and our charities, and we'd have to cut back on our travel. And we didn't want to cut back on anything. We actually wanted to step things up a notch going into retirement. And we said, how are we going to do that? So we looked at several different things. And for us, the answer was syndicating real estate. And, we found a coach and mentor and dove in head first, March of 21, and haven't looked back.
I remember when you started, dude. I remember.
Yeah.
It's great. And look where you are. That's the accomplishments, man. And that's the thing, go getting, right?
Yeah.
And funny you say, like, diving head first, not looking back. But when you're so sure about your outcome, and I think it starts there, reverse engineer, when you're like, hey, this is my outcome, this is where I want to be. And then when opportunity shows up, you just dive, and this is definitely a platform and a path for that able many of people to the same outcome. So definitely, man, definitely.
Yeah. And, and that kind of goes back to the, one of the first things we were discussing about the networking. And that's part of why I do the networking is, one of my favorite sayings is you can do real estate by yourself, but you'd be crazy to do it.
Yep.
Because there's just so many things that have to get done, so many things that have to be taken care of, so many different aspects of just one deal. And while one person can do that, it's so much easier with a team. And whether that team is all of your general partners, or whether it's a team in your company that we have one person that's our part-time underwriter, and he does several other things. So he balances our QuickBooks and things like that. Just so happens it's our youngest son, and
nice.
We pay him. He's not. It's interesting. We talked to our CPA about what's the best way to structure that for everybody, and we don't pay him a salary, and he's not paid on a 1099. He actually gets a guaranteed distribution. So whether the company makes money or not, he's going to get paid.
Right.
But it's to his benefit for the company to make money.
So you better underwrite a solid business plan to get that cash flow, man.
Yep.
Absolutely, dude. Like, talk to me about today, man. You guys are just completed due diligence. How did that go, and what did you see?
Oh man, due diligence. Well, the background back here is really a good representation of how it was on due diligence the last 2 days. It was hot out there. But no, it went really well. I mean, we didn't find anything that you really wouldn't expect on a property of that age. And we had already...
How many units?
It's 195.
195 units.
Yeah, it's a 2-property portfolio. And we're, I can't talk a lot about the particulars because we're starting it off as a 506B.
Sure.
But we will... The plan is to transition it to a 506C probably a month after we kick off our fundraising in earnest.
Have you done this before? The transition?
No, this will be the first time. We talked about it on our last deal, but we didn't do it. We're going into this deal planning to do it, but if everything goes like we expect it to, then we won't have to go to 506C.
Which is... It's very easy to do. It's probably, if your lawyers are fast, you can even do it in a couple of days, the transition. Yeah. And Here's my 2 cents on it because we done it last
Oh,
year.
okay.
And well, the great thing about marketing, and I think you do a very good job posting and your presence on those meetup events and stuff, but there's still a lot of people, when you do a capital raising, you're limited to how many people will know that you're under contract.
Mm-hmm.
Started with the emails. Now, more than ever, it's getting a very surge of emails going to junk, especially with those keywords that sometimes I use: investment, investing, money, double
Mm-hmm.
digits, cash. Those all get flagged because, guess what? Just like us, there's
The scammers.
thousands of people
Yep.
doing not ultimately the same thing, but things that involve those words that becomes like, a flag or trigger to
Mm-hmm.
those platforms. So, after you get taking care of your B's, 506B folks that, non-accredited, and you get them locked in, you give them a little bit of a sense of urgency because, you're telling them you're going to switch.
Mm-hmm.
And after you switch, technically, or you cannot get anybody else under that is not a credit investor. But the benefit when you switch, and now you can amplify that marketing, or you can amplify that campaign or that offering to multiple platforms, to multiple people, not worrying about, or rather you're going to be under the rules of, even though that you don't get accredited investors, but somebody that now knows that you have deals, now know that they like your deal, but they couldn't invest, but you put them into your database and identify who they are. So next deal, they're definitely going to come in first. So definitely it helps, but you have to time it really correctly because, we went to this issue, like people like, oh, can I invest now? We needed the money, but they couldn't anymore because they wouldn't accredit.
Yeah. I mean, it's the basic purpose of marketing, right? Is to get your name and face out there so that people go, oh yeah, I know this Neander guy, and he's doing apartment deals. And, so now that I know that, I want to reach out to him because I want to invest in apartments.
Yeah. I've been doing a lot of reading about this, and I'm coming to, they know for people to sell something, they need to see your face like 16 times, or they need to see something about you 16 times.
Oh, I know. It's crazy.
A cold, right? So with investing, I think it would be about the same thing. For somebody to invest with you,
Sure.
They need to have probably more than that.
Well, yeah, especially, as the minimums continue to creep up, it's not too many people that, they just meet you and they want to write you a $100,000 check.
Right. Correct. Exactly.
So, yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah.
But yeah, going back to the due diligence, we've got a business plan wrapped around the project. We want to bring the kind of the lifestyle of the entire community up. We're going to add some amenities. We're going to improve the exterior appearance. The roofs are going to be replaced. A lot of the plumbing is going to be replaced. Very likely going to have to mitigate the aluminum wiring. All the usual things you expect. Now, one of the nice things about it, the property had already been individually metered.
Nice.
And individual HVACs. Still boilers on the property, which
was that converted from a chiller?
No, I think it did have a chiller way back. I was going through some of the due diligence. I'm laughing because I was going through some of the due diligence documents and was looking at the laundry contract. You'll never guess whose name, phone number, and email address was on that contract. You want to guess?
Shit. It's somebody that we know?
Michael Becker.
Holy shit.
Yeah. It was one of his very first properties, I think.
Call him up and it's like, hey man, can you release this contract here?
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm sure I'm going to run into him.
I wouldn't guess that.
Yeah. It's pretty funny. I'm going, I know this guy.
I know this dude. Right.
But yeah, wow. It was fun, but no, I mean, we're going to, like I say, we want to really bring the level of the property up. And that was one of the things I really appreciated on your bus tour the other week. When we went on that, the things that you had done, on that property that we visited, it's very inspiring to look at what you can do, when you really put your mind to it. And, one of the things that we want to do is, make these apartments a really nice, clean place, safe, where people actually want to live there.
Mm-hmm.
And part of what we want to do too is we're going to have, we're going to try to implement some programs for financial literacy, for, improved diet, improved mindset. I mean, all of that kind of stuff. And we want to try to make it available. Now, can you get people to participate in stuff? Who knows, right? But
what if you change the life of one person, it's worth it.
Exactly.
So and one thing I found out also, that doing a bus tour, man, was the first time for us, and was a little bit out of our comfort zone.
I couldn't tell. I mean, it really is, from my standpoint, it really went very smoothly. And I know you guys documented the heck out of it, which is something you guys do really well. Because you got this great studio and everything here, and
I know a guy that does that kind of shit. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's it exactly, right? You know people that you pull from everybody's strengths, right?
Yeah. No, I actually do my Jersey stuff. Obviously we have a team that help us out, but I love that kind of setup and doing that kind of stuff. This is what I did. That's how you met me doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But I said I was out of our comfort zone, because the biggest fear when you do events, and you do events too, meetups and stuff, is like, is people going to show up, right? So for being the fact that it was the summer, a lot of people are traveling. It's like, oh man, I can come in on a Saturday. I have events with kids and such. But the people that came, they really came, and they were very engaged. And we got actually investors that were not even expecting they're going to invest, because we are in the middle of the capital raises as well. And, it was great connection to be able to not just show property, like numbers, here, take them there. So I think that's a very good.
And you did more than take them there. You took them there, and you told the story of what you guys did to those properties. Because you did some pretty significant lift on those. I walked into some of those units, and I'm going, wow, I could live here.
Yeah.
They were nice.
It's better than the kitchen in my house. That's for sure. That's what I tell everybody. Like, we did some renovations. The kitchen there looks really nice. But again, complimenting what you said, when you put your mind to it, you don't need to break the bank. You just need to find resources to make it a nice and clean and, classy.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? You don't need to put expensive stuff, because you can find, for example, a kitchen faucet that will cost $60, or it can cost $300. They do exactly the same shit.
Mm-hmm.
They all flow water.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So if you, especially on the construction side, on the properties that we buy, B and C and whatnot, you have to really take your time to shop and keep the budget on the construction, because that is also something that you're going to be getting successful at it if you do buy it at a good price and a good implementation of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're that's one of the reasons we brought somebody on the team that has significant capital improvement experience, and we're excited about.
Talk a little bit about your company. How was it formed? And
okay. So TWT Multifamily.
What does that stand for?
It's amazing how many people do not ask me what that stands for. It stands for, depending on which one of us you ask. If you ask me, it stands for Travel with Terry. If you ask her, if you ask her, it's Travel with Trouble. So, and the reason we did that is, we both love to travel, and that's important to us. And that was one of the reasons that we wanted to, build our multifamily company, is to be able to travel, in a little bit higher style and more often. And going into retirement, we want to be able to travel and not worry about all of the, household expenses and everything at home. We want to have, a separate stream of income that we can dedicate, towards our travel. And so,
So is it really travel with Terry?
well, I mean, if you look up the name, it's just TWT Multifamily.
Yeah.
Is how it's
Oh, that's
registered
cool.
with
I
the
thought it was
state.
great.
But that's what it stands for. Is
The
travel
other day
with
it was
Terry.
like we had Jimmy in our show, and it was like high five multifamily. I thought it was genius, dude, because it doesn't have to be. Nowadays we have this mentality of being super corporate and like, man, be yourself.
Exactly.
Be what you love. Do
Yeah.
what you love. Do,
Yeah.
and people would just relate to that. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So I love that.
No,
Your story.
we started that. We started that when when we joined our coaches program. We said, okay, we're going to need a company because we're going to wrap around this. Because when we talked about the investment amount of what was going to go into our education, we said, okay, if we're going to invest this amount of money, then we're going to commit to it. And so, we committed a minimum of 2 hours every night, a minimum of 8 hours on the weekend. Because at the time we were both working our W-2 jobs. Excuse me. And, we talked about different names, and we ended up coming up with this one because, like I say, travel's important to us. And we said, well, we don't want to put travel in the name because then somebody's going to think, we're a travel agency,
A travel
right?
agency company.
And they're gonna call us and go, hey, we want to book a trip to. It's like no.
If you invest, we can travel
but
together.
but the funny thing is I'm in the process of writing a book right now.
Oh, nice.
And it's going to talk about my two favorite things, which is real estate and travel. It's going to be kind of an introductory, how do you as a new real estate investor form your team, and why is that important, and how do you put together a blueprint for building the income that you need to support your travel. And
dude, that's awesome, man.
And we're gonna talk about some of our travels and stuff in there too, and kind of sprinkle some stories in the midst of it.
Yeah.
But I'm about 40,000 words into it right now.
What would that be in pages? A couple pages?
Yeah, a couple of pages. Yeah. No, I think that's probably going to be around maybe 175, 200 pages, maybe.
Nice. That's so cool, man. I think that's great. Dude, that's awesome.
And then I'm going to, depending on how much it costs, I'm going to put some of my color, vacation pictures in there. Because I do have to say I do have probably 10 or 15 just really, really good vacation pictures.
Really?
Yeah.
What you do is like, if I know the cost for publishing, especially independent, it could be expensive.
Yeah.
Especially if you use this book as, giving away, inspiring as a merchandising things. Obviously, I think you should put it on platforms to sell, why not? But what I've seen, and I think it would be a great idea, if one of the pages do you really want to illustrate something, you can build one page about your book. Anyway, a single pager that talks about you, the profile. You can put on the page in the book a little QR code. It goes directly there. It's like, hey, take a look at these pictures, and everybody has a phone. Boom.
Yeah,
great.
Well, and I've already got a bunch of them out there on Flickr. And that may be what we do is we just and I like that. I actually like that idea because that would be cheaper, and then I could actually put together just a color photo book,
right?
If somebody wants to buy the book.
Yeah, and then if they take it to the QR code as they scrolling through their pictures, hey, we'd like to be on the database. How you as well can have this ability to travel by investing or state. Now you capture their emails and they can become a contact.
Yeah. Well, and like right now, all of my marketing and everything is designed to drive people to my calendar page on my website and to book a call,
which is outstanding, man. I watched this webinar 2 days ago from, I forgot her name, but she's a female lady that we were part
Keely?
of. Yes.
Yeah.
Great content, by the way, man. She's amazing.
Yeah.
It's, even though I'm a marketing background, but we have to sharpen the saw, man. We need to innovate.
It's like multifamily. Everything changes, and you have to stay current.
Yep.
And that's one of the things I love about this business is it's a never-ending cycle of things that you can learn.
That was something new.
Yeah.
And if you just claim yourself that you know it all, you might be in the water.
Oh, yeah. That to me, that's a huge red flag. If somebody says they know it all and they've seen it all, I'm not investing with them.
That's true, man. Well, Shawn, it's cool, man. I don't think we ever had a chance to talk this long in a
No, I mean,
conversation.
well, usually we're both, at networking events and
Yes.
we're going like, oh, okay, yeah, I know him. So I'm gonna go talk to somebody I don't know yet. But no, it's been great to sit down.
100%.
So tell me a little bit more about what you guys have going on.
I want to actually share. You talk about how you founded and we talked a little bit about how names for companies and do what you love and stuff. So the naming Multifamily Empire came because back when I was a kid, I used to play this game they called Age of Empires.
I love that game.
Remember that game?
I love that game. Yeah.
So I was fascinated with medieval times, like empires, how they strategize wars, in a good way. Okay, don't bash me for it, like I like wars. No. This strategy behind. If you watch the Game of Thrones, is like really, strategy.
Mm-hmm.
That stuff always fascinated me from the history perspective, right?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we learn from the history. Today is a different age. That's why I don't want you guys frame it as like, oh, you like wars and shit, right? Nowadays, I have to be careful what you say. Anyway, I don't give a shit anyway. But anyway, so, and obviously if you Google it, or dictionary, if you have a lot of properties, you do have an empire, a lot of land, a lot of, real estate. That's an empire. And I think also the chess piece also goes back to the medieval time, but it's strategy, right?
Mm-hmm.
On this business, as you know, we're coming in for a strategizing the 5 years model, 3 to 5 years. How are we going to come in every year? What's going to happen? Lower expenses, increasing the NOI, giving cash flow to respect. It's all about strategy, strategizing, leveraging, of course, experts that is on your team, like we discussed also in this call. So, that's how our name came about from a game.
Oh, well, that's cool. Empires. I like that.
It's funny, like Italo, he still plays sometimes. That game still survives up to today. You can play online or other people. Yeah, it's funny.
But no, I mean, I like that. And, it's a, there's a lot to be said for the name, because that kind of helps you focus what your marketing and what it is you're trying to do. And as far as the focusing on like a property and that 5-year plan. Well, now that I've gotten several under my belt, I'm actually starting to look at what is that 10, 15, 20-year plan. And, how am I going to juggle not only the properties, but, if we hit our expectations on our business plan for each of the properties, well, now I'm going to create a tax problem for myself if I don't have something planned to do with that money ahead of time. And so now I'm starting to look at, the longer game of what am I going to do so I don't have to pay all these taxes?
Yep. That's why I spoke to a few syndicators, went full cycle, and they're like, get this big check of, it could be up to, let's say $1 million.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine if I had to pay capital gains and that stuff. Obviously, you can.
Well, yeah, you lose like 50% of it. Yeah, it's crazy,
right? So, it is crazy. How can you not strategizing your? That's why I say all to our investors, like, man, you have to come up with a plan to keep going every year, and you in the long term.
Yeah,
and leveraging not. A lot of my investors, they're like using TurboTax. It's like, stop it.
Get a CPA.
Exactly.
That is also a real estate investor.
Exactly.
I mean, because I used to be happy to refer my CPA out to anybody that needed a CPA referral for real estate investing, and he has since asked that I stop doing that because he's too busy. He goes, because I asked him, I said, and I'll always ask him before I send a referral. Yeah. I said, are you okay if I send a referral? And the last time I did that, he goes, I really wish you wouldn't refer any more people. He goes, I'm too busy. I go, okay, no, I said, that's fair.
Yeah, no, it's fair. I rather somebody be honest with me on, hey, I can't take your business. That take my business because they want the cash, but then they deliver the product, right? Or they deliver the
Exactly.
services. And then
Exactly.
a thing about referral is this: then if you refer somebody that relationship doesn't go good, it kind of you take a hit too,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
It kind of messed up your relationship now
Yeah.
because of the relationship. There were referrals. So I take referrals very serious because, I've been to situations that didn't work out for X, Y, and Z. And then I burned that relationship too. And
Yeah. It's, it takes management. I mean, it's, you got to put some thought and effort and time into managing the relationships, business, personal, investing, whatever.
yeah. But since you mentioned about the 10-year goal, what is your 5-year goal as far as your real estate multifamily company, TWT Multifamily? What is that company in 5 years?
So we are looking in that 5-year period to at least double our personal net worth. We've managed to do that over the past several years. I'd have to go back and look. Terry's our numbers person. She tracks all of that quarterly. And
SREOs and stuff.
yeah. I mean, it's like anything. Like if you have goals, if you don't measure them, how do you know if you're making progress or not? Right.
Exactly.
It's like saying I'm going on a diet and never stepping on the scale. How are you going to know if you're making any progress? You gotta measure it. Got to measure it. But yeah, we're looking, like I say, to double our current net worth in a 5-year period, and we should. I think the goal's a little too low. I think we'll surpass it, but we'll see. We'll see.
Have you also read that book from Dan Sullivan, The Gap and the Gain?
I have not read that one yet. It's still on my list to read.
It's great.
So what was your favorite part of that one?
I don't have a favorite part per se, but it's just the fact that he mentioned somebody that wanted to be financially free. And he's like, well, if I hit to the $1 million, I'll be financially free. I'll be secure. Got to $1 million and oh my God, I need to get to the $5 million so I can feel secure, very anxiety. And this is a guy that hired this guy to be his financial controller or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot the name right now, but got to 5, got to 10, 15, anxiety because now I have all this money, how to preserve now. And it's super anxiety, liquidated everything and sitting on cash, fired the guy. And it's crazy how, I say this a lot into podcasts or people that I talk to, some people that come ask for a mentorship and I talk to them. I was like, look, we need to celebrate every milestone that we are because we always up to the new thing, man.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Your challenges now might be hard, but if you offered the same challenge to yourself 5 years ago, how would you handle it? You probably be a lot more passion. You probably be a lot more like, man, this is nothing. I'll take this all day long.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I was like, look at yourself 5, 10 years ago, where we were, and tell yourself back then, 10 years ago, hey, 10 years from now, you're this, you have that, your family's this, your health is that. You'll be super happy.
Yeah.
If you tell myself 10 years ago who I am today, what I have, my kids, I would not believe you. It's
You
like,
probably
that's
get out of
bullshit,
here.
man.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, I get it. I mean,
and that's what the book's all about.
Okay, cool. I'll definitely. I may have to move that one up on my list to read then. But yeah, I mean, that makes sense. It's it's really just an ongoing process, right? Of looking at where we are today, and I'm trying to think. I'm trying to remember who said it, but there was a quote, something to the effect that, and I think it gets attributed to Tony Robbins. You overestimate what you can do in 1 year, but you underestimate what you can do in 10.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of truth to that because, we tend to be especially here in the U.S., very much, kind of immediate gratification focused.
Yeah.
And people don't realize that, 1 year of effort may yield next to nothing. 2 years of effort on that same thing can really start taking off. And because like my first probably 6 to 9 months was a big zero in terms of cash flow, in terms of, getting a deal done. We closed on our first deal. It was about 9-10 months in after we started, which is pretty quick. Now, some people do it faster, some people do it slower. I always tell people, I said, your speed is your speed. Don't compare yourself to everybody else. I mean, like when I'm teaching karate, we tell our karate students, you only compare yourself to where you were yesterday. If you're better today than you were yesterday, then you've made progress. You don't compare yourself to, the kid over here in the corner that's, a star athlete and, has been, doing karate for the last 5 years since he could, was this tall, and you just started a month ago.
And that's what I usually tell to a lot of folks, especially us syndicators, right? We underwrite a deal in a 5-year model, 3, 5, whatever.
Yeah.
But we underwrite it. We know exactly what's going on. Year 1, 2, 3, the cash flow, the numbers. Why are we not underwriting our lives? Why are we not underwriting our other businesses, right? Put it on the paper and doing projections. You know what? Year 2, I want to be in this situation and I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. Year 3, after I get this done, I'm going to pivot that way. Underwriting everything about our lives to plan, to have goal concrete, just like you said, like where we're not.
I can tell you why.
Why?
Because they don't teach it in schools. Nobody is taught how to plan their future. They're not taught to be independent. They're not taught to be financially free. And I'm going to pivot off of this topic because I'll stay here and talk on this for hours. There's, the school system is just not set up to create entrepreneurs. It's not set up to create people to be financially free. It's not set up to create people who are like-minded like we are. It's created to turn out followers.
What do your kids are grown, right?
Yeah.
What do? I have 2 little kids.
Well, you do what a lot of people in our group do is, you educate your kids. You get them involved in your business. You help them understand what, mommy and daddy do when they go to work. And, and the school system is good at basic education, and it's good at teaching. Somebody will probably yell at me, but not really teaching so much as indoctrinating the students in whatever the current government philosophy is, which
No,
again,
it's not. I ask you that question as rhetorical, but I think it's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
I'm not sending my kids to a school, to the regular school, and nothing wrong with anything again, but I just don't think that there's leadership.
Find a good private school, or better yet, hire a tutor that, can just homeschool them.
And to be honest with you, Shawn, I'm scared.
I would be too. I wouldn't want to be raising kids and having them going through the schools right now. Right now, Terry and I have 4 kids between us. And out of the 4 kids, we offered all of them the chance to invest with us. Only one of them took us up on it. And that's our youngest boy, Mark. And he invests with us. He works for us or with us. And, the other 3, they're doing okay. They have jobs, they're working, but they're the dutiful, employee that the schools have turned out.
Yeah. Which is nothing wrong with that. Absolutely not.
No, I mean, we
But I
need
just
people
think, you know,
to do
there's
those jobs,
we
but yeah.
the question is, are you living up to your potential? Are you doing really? So if you ask to say, if you're happy where you are, that's great. That's amazing. But if you ask yourself, like, are you happy where you are? Are you doing what you love? Then you really need to find strategies. How can you come out of that? I don't know.
Hmm.
Every circumstances, every situation is different. But I think that if if there's actually one hint in your soul that I should be doing something different, then
Yeah.
I'm not saying just to, I'm not the kind of guy that just said quit everything and just do what you love. Absolutely not. But it goes back to the same principle that I was telling you. Why we're not underwriting our lives? Why we're not strategizing, man? What is next week? What's next month? What's next year? What is 2 years from now? What is
I
5 years
like
from
that.
now?
You just need to start a new podcast called Underwrite Your Life.
I like that. Let's
I
give an
mean,
idea.
that you know, I had a website and a blog for a while called Down Home Thoughts, and you know, I would just kind of talk about whatever I wanted to talk about, and a lot of it was, you know, talking about building character and you know, just basic, decent human values,
Hmm.
and how do you, you know, how do you encourage other people to develop and improve their own character?
Yeah.
Because none of us are perfect, right? We all have areas where we can improve. We all have areas that we can do better.
100%.
But how do you first get people to kind of look at themselves and go, yeah, I guess you're right? Because most people don't want to, honestly. I mean, you know, and, you know, asking somebody, you know, if you're happy where they're at, 99% of them are going to say yes, unless they're just absolutely miserable because they don't want to admit that they're not happy. You know, it's you kind of have to get them. You have to get it, kind of walk them toward the edge slowly. You know.
Yeah. And you're right. Like our ego sometimes takes away from being honest with ourselves first,
Oh yeah.
right? We start putting those thoughts, and you know, we sometimes living in a reality that is not the reality. We're just living in something that we wish. And I'll be the first one that says among us syndicators is like, this shit is ain't easy. Buying apartments, like managing those deals, like closing, like what happens? A lot of people talk about, oh, I just closed, I just did this, I did that, you know. But what about after you close? Who's talking about that?
Yeah.
Now we're talking about the negative that wasn't in doing correctly. And now, as a matter of fact, the multifamily is getting a little bit of a hint right now, or a little bit of bad reputation.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what I mean? And it is not easy.
Mm-mm.
It's a lot of work. You know,
Well, it is. And, you know, a lot of people think, oh, I've closed the deal, I'm done. Well, no, really, when you close,
you start.
that's when the real work starts. You know, that 2 or 3 months leading up to closing is just preparing you.
It's a stress test.
It is. It's just
It's almost a warm up.
Yeah.
Because yeah, exactly. Because you in the deal for the cycle of the deal. It could take 3, 5 years, 7 years.
Could be 10. Yeah, it could be shorter.
Yeah.
But so, you know, could be longer. You have to go, well, what if? You know, you got to go, well, what if I don't hit my business plan? What if rents turn negative?
Yeah.
You know.
So to close out this session, which was amazing, by the way, dude, and we talked about the mindset and the gap and the gain. Tell me 3 things that you're absolutely passionate about that you're grateful for today. Can be business or personal.
Oh man, there's so
from
many.
Your heart, man.
You know, I'm so grateful that I got to spend a lot of time with my grandmother growing up, because she was a very strong woman. She had just massive arthritis. And when she would stand up and sit down, her knees would creak like an old wooden chair. I mean, she had like no cartilage. I mean, and she was a very strong woman, would never complain about her arthritis. And, one of the things that I'm grateful for is she kind of taught me the attitude that I have toward life, which is, things fall into two categories. Things you can do something about, you do it and you move on. Things you can't do anything about, you pray about it and give it to God and you move on. There's no sense worrying, because worry doesn't fix anything.
Or regrets.
Or regret. I mean, none of those are, and so I'm very grateful that I was able to spend a lot of time with her growing up, because it was, it really helped shape my, my attitudes and, I have a friend of mine that he refers to it as the fact that I'm indifferent. And it's like, no, I'm not indifferent. It's, if I can do something about something, then I take some action and I do it. If it's outside of my control and I have no way to influence something, why should I expend time and energy worrying about it? Right? I mean, it's just, but anyway, you asked me for 3, so that's one. That's one.
Which is great. It hit home for me because I grew up with my grandparents. They used to leave, our house was like a little condo thing. We were living on the first floor, they're on the second floor, dependent houses, but we're always together, and taught me a lot too. Thanks for sharing that. What's the second and third one?
So second and third things that I'm really grateful for, obviously Terry. She helps organize me.
She puts up with you.
She does put up with me. We're very, very compatible. We have opposite skill sets. She's very, very, very detail oriented and, very, very much, stays on top of our finances. And, so I'm very grateful for her. And then, just as far as, the business goes, I'm grateful for the country that we live in, that we have the freedoms to, pursue, and the laws that support, ownership of property, and that encourages, entrepreneurs that are willing to step out and take risks, and then reward you for, providing things back to the community that they need, like housing and jobs.
Amazing.
So there's 3. I'm sure I could sit here and come up with a.
How can people find about you, man, about your business?
Easiest way is to hit our website. It's TWT, that's Tango Whiskey Tango, multifamily.com. So it's TWTmultifamily.com.
Let's go. Thank you so much for coming, man.
Oh, man. Thank you. I had a blast.
This was great conversation.
Yeah, it's been great chatting with you and getting to know you better. And it's what it's all about.
Absolutely. I hope that, I gained a lot of value. I listened to your story, man. I thrive on that stuff. Listen to all those people. Everybody has a story. Yeah. And I think that, seeing you in events and stuff, but that beautiful soul and core values that you have, that needs to be broadcast louder, man.
Well, I will definitely work on that.
Okay. Thank you, Shawn. This was the fire table, man, when the shit hits up.
Yeah, I tell you, it's definitely been heating up. I appreciate it.
All right, let's go.